My name is Matt Inkfer. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cubby. We're the self-storage platform that makes growth simple. We make facility management, call center management, and revenue management software for operators across the storage industry. And you are listening to Students of Storage, our new podcast. Today, we are joined by Frank Certo, who's the SVP of operations over at the Storage Mall and has a wealth of knowledge and experience that we're going to dive into today through his career story, how he's running his business, how they're growing that business. Looking forward to diving in with Frank, and thanks for joining. Hey, Frank, thanks for joining us on Students of Storage.
Yeah,
pleasure to have you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome.
Be here, excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I figured let's just dive right in. Let's start with your story. Tell the people, your story from your career. How'd you start out? How'd you get into storage? How'd you wind up where you are? Take us through the journey from the start, and then we'll dig into what you're doing today at the Storage Mall.
Yeah, for sure.
And from there.
So I started, I guess, in my career after college. I went to grad school. I'm from Pittsburgh, and went to school in Eastern Ohio, graduated there, went to grad school in Pittsburgh. And I got involved, although I graduated with this idea that I would be in sports and work in sports. I interned in sports. I was a hockey guy, a hockey player in high school and college, and involved in things like that, and coached high school hockey. And so I thought it'd be great to work for a hockey team. I interned for one in Cleveland at the time, and it was a lot of fun, but found out that the industry was a little different than what I thought. Not everybody gets to sit in the locker room and listen to the coach. That's not what everybody did. Most guys were selling tickets, and that wasn't that exciting. But I eventually did get into sales, and I ran a sales company for about 8 or so years. Started in Pittsburgh in sales training and sales management, and eventually opened up an office in Westchester, New York, White Plains, and operated all around that tri-state area, Connecticut, upper New Jersey, the 5 boroughs, a little bit of upstate. And when I got married, it was like, all right, this is really taking up a ton of time. I was working 6 days a week. I was in the office early, staying late, really get grinding away, talking to folks. And we were doing business to business sales. So it was nothing super glamorous. I wasn't selling rocket ships or high tech equipment. We were really, we were an outsourced marketing company that was being hired to do new customer acquisition. So we were selling cold calling to the first time you ever heard of us, we're getting you signed up. So I did that for a while. That really taught me a lot because it's something I was not super confident and didn't really ever see myself doing. I basically got into it because I had no other options. After a while, you have to stop playing and you have to grow up. So I had to get into that. And eventually I moved my office back to Pittsburgh, and I had a partner there. So when I got married, it became very labor intensive, and I thought, okay, I should be able to do something. So divested my share of it, and bumped into a guy who was an operations manager at the time for the local storage operator in Pittsburgh. He happened to have a recruiting background and had been in sales in his lifetime, so he respected my background, and we got to talking and spent about 8 weeks on different conversations, frankly. And he said, listen, we're a small company, but we're really growing. We got a great idea, very progressive owner. We would really need a guy like you in our operation. I don't know where, but somewhere. He said, do you know anything about storage? I said, no, never used storage. Don't know anything about it. The one thing I can tell you, though, is I have seen these buildings that have popped up. And I guess now I understand that that's your company. And they do seem to me to be really, really over the top for what I deem as storage. I mean, they're really super nice, multi-story, glass fixtures. I've never been in any of them, but I can't believe it's like a castle. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to believe that's a self-storage property, but that's cool. So anyways, after conversating with this guy back and forth, he basically told me that, listen, our company wants to launch a mobile storage product. And we don't really have anybody internally in the company that wants to do it, that wants to head it up. so what do you think? And I said, I don't even know what it is, but sure, I'll do it. Sure. I've built a business before. I've built teams. That's what I really have done before, and systems and these kinds of things. So what could it be? The only thing I had in my head for mobile storage was pods. That's the only thing I knew.
Sure.
And this was different. It was more residential oriented. It was a little bit more friendly that way, but it was it was honestly a very niche thing in the storage industry that was gaining momentum. So we're talking early 2000s here. And it went from, hey, haven't you used, at the national conferences, anybody here that is interested in mobile storage, we have a little breakout room if you want to know more about it. And it eventually grew to its own conference. Well, it started in mobile storage, the MSSA, Mobile Self-Storage Association. And, I was essentially building a silo. So I got in and I found out that we were going to sell it from the self-storage properties we had at the time. I learned the software. I was everything. I built the boxes. I had to figure out how to source all the materials. I became the driver. We had leased/owned a 50-foot tractor trailer rig with a Moffin on the back.
Awesome.
I had never even driven a stick shift car. And now I went to trucking school, and I found myself driving a 10-speed, 5 up, 5 down, double clutch, the whole thing. And so I was making the deliveries. I was the warehouseman. I was the sales trainer. And it was great. We did very, very well with it. The owner put all the effort into the right materials and got the right equipment, so he didn't skimp on any of it. But honestly, what happened is I think his initial thought on this strategy was, I've got self-storage properties, but there's a lot of space between them. And there's customers out there that I can't service. And I think he went home one day in his neighborhood and he saw a mobile storage container sitting there and he goes, why isn't that mine? So that probably played into it as well. But anyways, he thought this would be a great way for me to service all these areas that I don't have properties in. Unfortunately, the way it really played out was we were marketing it from the storage properties, and that the property managers added it to their toolbox as another product to sell. And it was one of those things where folks that understood it really liked it, and probably, 10 to 15% of our storage customers ended up choosing mobile storage. And so over the years, you can imagine, I did that for a couple of years. I have all kind of crazy stories about things that happened with the truck, and places I got myself involved in, and places I had to get stuck and get backed out of. My very first day crossing one of the bridges in Pittsburgh, the back tandem locked up and the brakes caught on fire of the trailer. And I went under the trailer to see what was going on, and the inside tandem exploded, the wheel, the tire.
Oh my.
All that happened.
Gosh.
And so, it's like one of those things where you fear about things that you can perceive might happen, and they end up all happening in the first week. And then you find out you survived it. But anyways, we got that to a point where I said to him, hey, listen, we need we need another truck, more boxes, another warehouse, or what do you want to do? Because there was already momentum to where he thought, okay, maybe this was an impulse thing and not really where I want my business to go. So we decided to find a local partner that was also growing in that industry. We sold and divested all of our stuff. And I transitioned over to running the self-storage. At the time we had, like I said, like 10 or 11 properties. We were just beginning to expand outside of Pittsburgh into the Front Range of Colorado. And today, the company's got 30 stores or something like that, and still very, very strong operation. But I was with those guys for 10 or so years. In the meantime, I got involved in the state association. One thing I'll say, I was fortunate that the operation I worked with was very best practices oriented, very much in line with, let's find out who the top players are in the market. Let's pick their brain. Let's get with those guys. Let's create little working groups where we can bring people together and learn things. Almost every one of those people is still big in the industry, some even bigger than we ever thought they would be. That were part of those initial groups, and really they were large companies where The owners would get together, but so did the ops and marketing side of things. So I was fortunate. I built a ton of relationships. I got a chance to speak, and the industry was not as big as it is today.
Right.
It was very common for you to walk down the aisles of the trade show and know almost everybody. And we had tried or were using almost every product there. One of the very biggest decisions we had to make, I'd say this was probably right around 08, 09. Now that we've divested mobile storage, we had to go from using a software program that, had mobile storage written into it as an operator. It's not even in the industry anymore. They tried to come in from some other industry and it worked for a little bit, but then it didn't. And we had to decide who we were going to use going forward. And there was a big kind of battle internally with us because with the two leading providers at the time was SiteLink and Extra Space's kind of dumbed down product, which was called Center Shift.
Mm-hmm.
The owners of Center Shift and or the Extra Space guys were sort of entertaining our owner and bringing him out to their offices and telling him how great it would be if he'd sign up with them, which actually, if you think about it today, we had like 12 stores. To be doing what you were doing for a 12-store operator, that goes to show, the large owners council in the Self-Storage Association, still to this day, to be in it, you have to have 10 stores. It's like everybody has 10 stores. So that tells you that back then what a large operator was. Anyways, at the same time, we were coming at from the perspective of the property manager and really like SiteLink. So we were working hard internally with our own little factions to try to debate against each other. And, whatever, SiteLink won out. I think we chose that product because at the time it was just so super simple and user-friendly for our managers. It had a lot of capabilities that our current didn't have. But the good thing is we got in at the ground floor as a power user with a software program that was very interested in hearing what we had to say and how we wanted it to go. And myself and some of these other operators that we've talked about in these working groups, all were using the product and were helped to shape it. So, from there, through the relationships I built, I worked with another operator in Pittsburgh. An interesting guy.
Before you made that move, what the first operator you worked with in Pittsburgh was that Store Express?
No, it was Guardian.
Okay, Guardian, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Guardian.
Yeah, so you've seen them grow for many years.
Cool. Oh, yeah. I mean, Guardian's a great group. I mean, I learned a lot from Steven. He has his challenges in some places, which he would probably object to, but I learned a lot from him for sure, and it was a great team. I mean, there's a lot of those.
And you were there for like 12 years or so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of those people that I have brought along with me as I've gone on my journey, and I've brought them with me because I really raised them from pups, if you will, in that industry. Some of them are still out there doing their thing in this industry, or what our marketing manager is now somebody that's our marketing director is someone I hired as an assistant manager way back then. Some of them have gone on out of this industry, but they're doing very, very well in other places. And I'm still in contact with a lot of the folks that are still there that have kept growing and doing things. So it was a good operation for sure. And it was really based on that. I built a relationship with the owner of Store Express. He kind of knew me probably socially and then thought, wouldn't it be great, to have me come in and help his operation? And he's a different guy. He has a different way of doing things in a lot of places. He has had a lot of success with his own. Has a gigantic niche of alternative storage use, and he's done great with it. And a
lot of factories and redevelopments and things.
Yeah, he's done, and he has between art, these spaces where these art rooms and band practice rooms and contractor spacing, and they put a lot of emphasis on those three things where they've conditioned the spaces in certain ways. It's a totally different business model, but not really. There's a lot of people that go, hey, listen, you're crazy and you're doing a lot of goofy things, but he's really one of the only ones doing it. I don't even see too many operators that are even trying to model after some of that. And frankly, especially in larger urban centers, it works and it would be very good. In some of them, I've talked to some, large operators who have met him and they're like, I don't want to hear anything about that. Don't tell me anything about that, because they think it's crazy. And he is a little crazy. Steve Mitnick is a little crazy. And he would laugh at me.
I mean,
He'd be the first one to say that if he were listening, and he may listen. But at the same time, he was successful and is successful as well, and his operations continue to grow. And I spent some time there with him, and I helped him maybe institute a few best practices, which he's not a fan of. He doesn't like that word. He likes to do things differently. And ultimately, I think we probably spent about as much time as we could professionally with each other. We got as much out of each other as we could, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's room under the self-storage tent for all different sorts.
That's right.
And all different thought processes and strategies. If you've thought of some crazy idea, chances are there's somebody out there trying to make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. That operation has a building in the east side of Pittsburgh that it's so quirky and funky that it has to be worked on by a roller coaster company. And it was an innovation that never took off in storage, but it's essentially the entire building is automated where you stand down almost like you think about, you might see this in New York or in the city or something like this, where you stand at one station and you on a pin pad call up your unit and an electronic arm goes and grabs your box, brings it down and presents it to you. You do whatever work you have to do. And that's it. You never really enter the building.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts. It needs to be serviced like crazy. It's probably, if he would have just built a 3-story self-storage building there, he would have been better off, but he did it and he loves it. And if you make too much fun of it, he comes after you. So.
Awesome. Okay. So you got your foundation underneath you. You took an opportunity in mobile storage and turned it into what became a full-blown career in the self-storage industry. What happens next?
Yeah. I think honestly why it worked, because it married what I had been doing in sales. Like I personally find myself really putting a lot of time and effort into teaching and training, developing people. And the self-storage industry is a simple business. That's the reason why it's grown like it has, because it doesn't take, real sophisticated. But there are subtle nuances, and those subtle nuances are really what makes the difference, those subtle complexities, and they are a little bit complex. And so, we've learned and investigated those throughout the years. But what happened next was through relationships, especially in the Storage Association on the board there at PASA, I met a lot of great people in brokerage and in, vending side, and now growing self-storage management, third-party management, something I've seen. I know Alyssa Quill. I've seen her grow that operation from before she owned SAM to now being part of it and seeing it grow and all that stuff. And pretty awesome. And so a relationship there introduced me to Pat Bailey, who has been a regional owner-operator for many years, probably 15, 20 years. He's been, and maybe longer than that now, he's been involved in upstate New York, a former U.S. Air pilot, wanted to get into something that was going to give him more family time, so he bought storage. He had other things as well that were kind of on the rental scene. And he ran these properties, these 15 or so properties, up and down, sold some, bought some. Okay, with the knowledge he had, he did a pretty good job. He innovated a little bit. He also, understandably had some gaps. But at the same time, he had this idea that he wanted to develop a third-party platform. So he had started talking to a broker colleague of ours who he really pitched him on coming into the operation. And the guy said, no, I'm doing really well at what I'm doing, but I do know a guy. And, this guy said to me, look, you need to go look at his stores and get them squared away. He's probably got some gaps that need to be filled in, some best practices around there. And then you can begin to build this platform. I think he's barking up the right tree in terms of understanding what he can do for other owners. But he doesn't know a ton about the industry and how to build this thing and whatever. So I did, and we did for about a year, focused on his property, spent the next year really working on the platform, added a lot of layers to it, a lot of properties, management tactics and operational policies and procedures, got deep into marketing, that kind of thing. And then it's like, all right, the next step here is we need some business development. We got to go find somebody that can help us sell this. And we were in the process of doing this. At the same time, I kept hearing people, my colleagues, telling me that about this kid, Alex Herbs. And I didn't know who Alex Herbs was. Interestingly enough, I had on this side of it also heard that, from years before I got in, some of the systems that were set up that were, introductory systems, probably needed a little bit more sophistication, but we're operating in for the storage mall. Oh, Alex did that. Oh, Alex helped him set that up. He had Alex do that. And I'm like, who the hell is Alex? So I don't know who Alex is over here, nor do I know who Alex is over here. Finally, the folks who were talking to me understood the connection between Alex and Pat, but I didn't. And so I found that out. I started talking to Alex, and he kind of said, I have a lot of relationships over here on the brokerage side and a lot of relationships in, being able to work the territories we're in. People are coming to me and saying, hey, you want to manage this? Our family's got a small portfolio. We're sort of leveraging that. But I don't have any operations help, and I need it. And he was actually having me sit in on interviews of operations people with him.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I'm interviewing salespeople over here. And so I finally kind of went to Pat and I said, hey, why don't we, what do you think? And, there was a family thing. They had to work out a little bit, and they did. And here we go. Now we have the Storage Mall Management Group. And that brought the small portfolio that the Herbs family has, melded it in. Some of the customers that Alex had, some of his contracts early on were maybe not great, but there's a half a dozen folks or more that continued. And then we've grown it from there.
And this wasn't that long ago, right? This all came together. When did it really start?
Probably like early 22, like late 21 is when we started to talk. And then probably early 22 is when we made it official. And then we went through the transition, and you find out that we're, so much of the way Alex was running things, he had learned from his uncle. So he had mirrored it over what Pat was doing. But it's funny, you get involved and you go, okay, the way they have the software set up is there's a lot of settings that are different, and what we're able to do over here, we're not able to do over there. He had a small team of people, didn't have a lot of experience in hiring the right kind of people. So we had to weed through some of that and get it all together. But now we've grown to a point where we've got, 60 some locations. We've got 3 district managers. So we're, we got a couple of big areas. And we've got a, full marketing team going on and stuff. So it's been fun. It's been great. It still comes down to teaching, training, developing people, and my way of thinking. We've been able to institute and think about best practices, and really been able to upgrade and get involved in the types of systems we've needed to. What we bring to the industry, we're running properties same as a lot of others. I think that we just talked about this today on our team call this morning. Our focus on some of those subtle complexities and analyzing these properties and their performance, and really, not just being happy maintaining, but really growing these things and focusing on the KPIs and digging in and teaching our people how to strategically and tactically go about it is really what separates us. That's why we gain performance. There are times in this industry where everybody does well. And that's the reason why this industry has grown, because investors go, hey, I'm looking for a return, and this industry gives me a pretty good return almost all the time. There are times, which we're coming out of now, where it's been a little bit rocky, and you got to really know what you're doing, because you get found out if you don't. And that's really where we shine. So it's been fun.
Awesome. Yeah, very impressive. I mean, you covered a lot there, but I think you undersell it. There's not a lot of third-party management groups that have grown the way that you guys have since 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you could probably count on one hand the people that have picked up the number of stores that you guys have. Sounds like you have plenty of sales chops in-house, which is probably a part of that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, what is it? Why do people go with you if you're in like a competitive process where somebody's looking for a third-party manager?
Yeah. I mean, look, here's the thing. Sometimes we stress, and this is something that, Alex and his team continue to define, like, who are we? And I think just like so many other businesses, you got to have your target audience and you got to know your why. And we've really learned it and focused on developing that. So we know, the customer that we're looking for and what we're looking to go after. And I think we've had a lot of success with that. Now, the other thing is we bring a hybrid approach to stuff. So we're flexible in that some of these properties out there, the newest wave is everybody wants to run things remotely, and there are management companies that believe in that. That's all they do. They're convincing that middle-sized property that, we can do this remotely and we can handle it for you and you'll save money on this and you'll save money on that. Now, I come from the other side of the tracks where I come from a staffed property. I believe in my people. I build soldiers. We are a team that can't be beat. If I open up a store across the street from you, I will beat you. Simple as that. Now, of course, I also have properties in my portfolio that have 115 units and there's not supposed to be a person there. So obviously we don't have a person there. And there's also properties, there are tweeners where the owner has put technology and has put infrastructure into the property where it can function today very, very nicely without a person, and the customer still finds a smooth experience and still get help where they need it, still get education where they need it and support where they need it. And but we have systems set up for that as well. So we're not definitively a manned operation, nor are we definitively an unmanned operation. But, look, I think what people get impressed with, the owners that have started to work with us, because we run these stores and we think about these stores and we train our managers to run these stores as if they were their own. And we don't have some far off, call center system that, we'll catch all your calls, but we don't really know what's going on at your property. We're grinding. You get us, you get our team, you get my marketing director spent 15 years in operations. She ran properties, some of the biggest properties in some large metro centers. And she understands the business from a marketing standpoint and an operations standpoint. She melds that together.
Very rare.
Myself and my ops team and my folks we have district managers with close to 20 years experience as district managers working for all kinds of size companies. So we bring a lot of that expertise. And that said, we educate and train our people constantly. Mm-hmm. So we are always grinding over the small things that'll benefit your property. You know what I mean? That's why you hired me, I think, is so I can grow the value of your property. That's what I thought I was here to do. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Cool. How do you, you're talking about some of these people that have been with you for a long time. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I notice is that there's a lot of turnover in our industry. And what I see with our customer base is that the folks who have less turnover they outperform.
Yeah.
And I think it's correlation and causation. But what is the secret for you from just maintaining good people for years, as you've done at this point?
Yeah. I like to think that I've developed some skills with team building over the years because I started out so bad at it. And, my sales business was really about building a team. The sales side of what we didn't take a master's degree to figure out. The trick was it was hard. And because it was hard, you needed a hard person, and you needed to figure out how to find a hard person, develop a hard person, and keep them motivated. We were very big picture oriented. I spent a lot of time training on the blocking and tackling. I had to spend a lot of time, even personally, figuring out how to work with people who weren't like me. I'm come from a sports background. I've been a coach my whole life. You don't have to sugarcoat things for me. You can tell me right away what's going on. I respect that. That's good. That's fine. I don't get heartbroken over it. Let's make it happen. That's not the way a lot of people are. I would take one step up and two steps back. I lost a lot of probably good people because I didn't know how to work with them. I brought all that experience over, and I'll be honest with you, working for a storage company is weird and different, but it doesn't necessarily present some of the same trials and hardships that being a salesperson out on the road all day does. That said, once we created that big picture, and we did it in Pittsburgh with Guardian, we created a big picture there. Not only that it was something people wanted to be a part of, it was something bigger than themselves. We kept feeding that and catering that and training that and building that. And that's why so many of those stores rock and roll. That's why so many of those people They're either senior managers, district managers, regional managers. Some of them own their own companies. Some have left and are big deals in other places because we wouldn't let them get soft. We kept challenging them. And, I think they respect the fact that I care. Generally speaking, I care about your development. I feel like if you get better, the store will take care of itself. And so we challenge you.
You sound like a hockey coach to me,
Yeah.
That's not that, but it makes all the sense in the world. Of course, like, you create a team, you get them to buy in, you earn their respect the old fashioned way, and the outcome takes care of itself when you have that kind of culture.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's no hurt feelings or anything like that. We're just trying to kind of make it happen. That makes a ton of sense to me. And listening to you tell your story, of course, that's how it's shaped.
Yeah. I mean, I believe highly in culture. I believe that as the position that I'm in, generally speaking, operations is the largest part of this industry, and mainly most of these companies, the ops sides where most of the people are, that it's my responsibility to build culture. And the culture gets to be, and I realize the culture is not something you just say. I don't put together a fancy PowerPoint and say, here's our culture. It's on the wall if you ever want to see it. I have to live it. I have to be a great example of it every day. The folks are always looking for the crack. I always have to, and I demand that too, and train that into our leadership and all the way down, and so look, over the years, there's been some people that have not found our culture great. That happens. But by and large, if you look back and if you talk to folks that have been involved with teams we've had, even in short-term teams like we had at Store Express, that was a team that was very tight, very sharp. Some of those people have gone on as well to become superstars in other places. So
awesome. So, okay, you've built a team, you've built a culture, you've built, entire departments and companies, portfolios. Let's dive now into how you build the operations and actually what's taking place within that team day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do this basically in the order of the storage customer's journey. I want to walk through marketing, how you win a customer, how you follow up with leads. Does that happen in the store? Does that happen in a call center? Does that happen online? And then take it from there. I want to go through that. I want to understand how you price your units, how you run your facilities and deliver good customer service, how you keep collections down. But let's start at the beginning of that renter customer journey. How do you think you want your team to run these operations?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, we look at it as there's three pillars that hold this whole operation up. Customer experience is the first one, or is one of them. Revenue management is another. Of course, we got to, make money around here. And then compliance. And compliance is the legal side, the collection side, the inventory status side, et cetera. So the customer experience is maybe the entry point to it, but they all really do work together.
Yeah.
And the customer experience to me makes sense that it is, it starts when that very first thing that happens to you, you're sitting on your couch and you get noticed that a life event has happened, whatever that might be, a good one, a bad one, that's now potentially brought the need for a storage unit into your world. And the journey that you then take from the very beginning, whether you go online and you search for us, you start to think to yourself, hey, I think there's a place I drive by all the time. I know a buddy of mine that told me about a place. I happen to work down the street from somewhere. Whatever it is, everything has to be consistent. So if somebody does a search online and they find us and they go to our website, they have to look at our website and say, because you can tell these days, the industry, storage is a laggard industry. The expectations get set in retail and hospitality, but people are used to that. So when they go to a website today and they can tell that it was set up by somebody's cousin or some bozo that doesn't know what they're doing, already they go, okay, I'm not sure about this. I don't know anything about this industry, but this website, maybe I should become a website guy because this thing's not so good. And
we always say how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So if you got a sloppy website, it's just a signal that there's probably some other sloppy
That's
stuff
right. That's a
happening,
good.
and I'm not. Yeah.
So we look at it and say, okay, the first impression they might have is this website. And then they pick up the phone based on the number you have there. And then the next impression they have is of a person they talk to, whoever that is, whether it's your call center person, your frontline manager, whatever. And everything has to match. If they see consistency where the professionalism of the website tells them that they get good information, quickly are able to gather where they're going and good research there, then they talk to somebody who sounds like they got it all together. They're conscientious, they're professional. Those two things match. Then they show up at the property. And if the property looks like it's in good shape and it's being managed and somebody around here, is paying attention, it's a very transparent business. The customer can tell right away if you're paying attention, and they will reciprocate. If you're not paying attention, neither will they, or they will. So now we've got 3 different parts that can become consistent. And as long as you have that consistency, then there's nothing that will make the customer go, that doesn't make sense. Now, there are all these places out there, and some of them are really FUBAR in various ways, and they still get customers because there's some people that actually go, I'm actually looking for the place where they don't pay attention. And this looks like it because I'm going to do some shady stuff in my unit. We're trying not to attract those customers. We want the discerning customer that has a lot of high care and concern for their items and is willing to pay for it. And so, what we know is, look, I don't have the buildings we had in Pittsburgh earned it. I don't have those buildings in a lot of our portfolio. We don't have 100,000 square foot, 5-story buildings with interior climate control, individual door alarms, carpeting, first-class concierge, no question, top notch. I've got buildings that were built in 1991 and they're just rows of drive up. So, okay, but I can still be consistent in my presentation. So that's where the experience starts. It's a warm lead. People don't look at don't call around to storage buildings because they're bored. The statistics tell us 9 out of every 10 people looking for storage end up renting. If not from you, then who? And so we really try to put a lot of time and effort into our pipeline management, an understanding of the pipeline, managing the pipeline, all the protocols on follow-ups and closing sales and our whole sales conversation. It's highly relationship oriented. It's highly consultative. It is designed to get to a solution. We don't focus on price. Price is not the main object here. We focus on solutions. We weave our upselling opportunities right into it in almost a way where the customer goes, makes sense to me. Why wouldn't I?
Let's double click on that. How do you who's answering those phone calls? How do you split up whether it's an on-site manager or someone in your call center? And then I want to learn more about how, you've developed these policies and you say you train. How much of it is relatively scripted and thought out beforehand versus how much of it is like trusted and pushed out to the edge of your employee base so that they can make decisions to close a lead or whatever they need to do?
Well, so first off, when it comes to the phones, we have a lot of redundancy. Everybody has to these days. So there's hours that, we have all the hours covered whenever somebody's sitting on their couch at 2 a.m. after a hard night of pizza and drinking. Once a storage unit, we'll answer the phone. Somebody will somehow. But the point is we have redundancy in the phones. Look, to this day, I certainly have a team of people that are my own people, our own call center. They're really focused on taking new sales calls. That's all they do. I can tell you we're probably one of the only companies of our size that are actually closing leads over the phone. So my call center, they really get graded on the ability to close phone calls on the phone, close the whole deal. So you call them and 10 minutes later, you're a customer. They don't take your name and number and throw the lead to somebody else. They don't send you a link to a website that you might go on and hopefully do this, and maybe we have to follow up with you. Does that happen sometimes? Yeah, because the customer, that's what they want to do, but that's not our focus. And then look, we do have some manned stores where customers come in. These guys know how to invite somebody in, give them a tour, walk through the property. We cover that. We show that. The managers these days on site do not handle as many sales calls as they used to, because we do have this call center that we really try to focus. That's all they do. And we look, 50% of our move-ins come online, and that happens. And so we put a lot of emphasis on working with our web partner and making things as easy as possible. And I have a software program right now that shall remain nameless, but it's not very good, and I don't like it. And it doesn't do the best job that I think it could. Now, I'd do a better job if I used their entry-level rummy website, but I don't. So therefore, I have a great website that doesn't function as good as it should, but it functions pretty damn good. So,
yeah.
And we do talk about it a lot, and we focus on it a lot. So we look at all these channels, and everything has to be consistent. The key is consistency. The customer doesn't know. They only know what they're seeing and what they're told. If they see something that looks sharp and they talk to a person who doesn't look sharp, it breaks the chain. They see something looks sharp, talk to somebody that looks sharp, they show up at a property that doesn't look sharp, something's wrong here. So everything's got to work. Yeah. And then when they become a customer and they're now allowed on location, and they can sit in the office and watch you work, and they find out you never walk the property and there's garbage everywhere and you never fix the lights, now the customer experience is broke. So everything has to be consistent from the first moment that life experience happened all the way through move out, which could be 3 years. Who knows? Yeah. So our sales process is not necessarily scripted. We do have a structure. I am a big fan of personalities and letting these folks do that. I realize I am not necessarily recruiting all hardcore salespeople to run my stores. We do want people with a good retail and people and sales background. That said, everybody's is different. I used to do sales training all the time with new recent graduates in the marketing world. They didn't know a thing about marketing. So it's like, I don't know what school you just got a degree from, but I would never send anybody there. That said, we do have kind of a structure. And we challenge them to stay in that structure and to follow. We do secret shopping when we do things. But I will say one last thing is that I empower my managers. I empower them to run that store as if their own. I back their play. Unless they burn the joint down, there's nothing we can't fix. There's no mistake they could make necessarily with any one customer that's going to make or break that place. If they give away too much, or if they told a customer, they could have something that they're not really supposed to give them, if they waive a fee or something that I would never, whatever, doesn't matter. We train them on the right way to handle things, but I don't want them to do it because I told them to. The trick is to get other people to do what you want them to do because they want to, not because you told them to. And that's the real buy-in. They understand, they think like revenue managers. They think like stewards of an asset. They're asset managers is what they are, and they make decisions based on, if this were my asset, what would I do?
Yeah. We see, a certain type of operator that we're working with has a similar philosophy. And, if a pattern emerges where a manager is giving away the store, and that, tips you off to the fact that maybe they don't have that same mentality that revenue manager has, or the owner of that facility has, then you can take corrective action and you can coach that person up. Mm-hmm. But we just had Adam Jarrell from American Self Storage on, and he was talking about the same thing, empowering his managers to close a deal or resolve a customer service issue, because, nothing that you're going to do in that moment is going to make or break the business. Right. So, just giving them the freedom. Also, one of the things that he did is, or one of the results he sees is tenure. People don't leave because they feel that they have agency at the job, and they feel that they have ownership over the outcomes. And I think that contributes to longevity of people not staying, or people sticking around for a long time.
That's one great thing about property management. Nobody went to school for it. And a lot of people say, what the hell is property management, until they get in and they find out the relationships they build are different than anywhere else. But also you get to see the fruits of your labor. It's just your place. You get to see that the decisions you make every day, a month from now, you see where they've taken you. And that's a lot of fun. And I agree totally with him. And, giving ownership to your team and the ability to make deals. I'll say, look, I understood totally when the shift in this industry that came from, let's just be really, really occupied and not worry about the money, because if you're full, that's the key, to this focus on, I remember so vividly, the focus or the theme of the one conference, the national conference, was economic occupancy. what is economic occupancy? And it was just the reality that the revenue is actually what's most important around here. So you should fill your building, but you should do it in a good financial way. And I work with people all the time now that have come from operators that will give away the farm, whatever it takes to get a yes. And I look at it and I say, we're going to teach our people to be good salespeople so that they can get the customer, but they don't have to give away the farm.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know,
when did you notice that change in the industry? What year do you think?
Well, I'm going to say it was probably around 2012, something like that. Like what happened is as we came out of that economic crisis of 08, 09, you know, a lot of operators that didn't really have their ducks in a row got found out pretty quickly around that time. And we had some, even some investors that got in trouble and various things, some markets got in trouble. But then it became about this. What happened as a coming out of that is the industry saw a growth in demand.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden, you having a property that was at, 94, 95% or 96% was not that hard. So now it became, let's find the optimal occupancy, which is probably around 92. So I can have rate strength and leverage, but I still have available units. And if you're shitting at 97%, you're too full. And that's something that mom and pop still to this day go, huh? And, but think about this. When I first started in the industry, the first meeting I went to, show of hands, who has a website? And there's like some people. From that moment until 2020, the biggest companies in this industry didn't even let you rent online. It took 20 years for Extra Space and Public Storage and all these companies to not only get websites, but to let you rent online. They were actively against it in the aughts and the teens. It wasn't until 2020 that they finally had to. That tells you where the industry is still behind everywhere else, which is a good thing, because you get to see what works and doesn't work. But it's tough because the customer expectations are such that they go, what the hell? What's this? I mean, come on. What am I doing here? So,
well, it seems like you guys have done a good job of closing that gap pretty quickly. I mean, you've grown fast. That's a testament to the fact that you're actually doing things the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. We're there. The tough part about third parties sometimes is that I can only convince the ownership group as much as I can try to capital expenditure things and get their properties up to speed. Obviously, when we were the owner operator, it was our money, so we knew what we were doing. In this case, I say, boy, I'm going to tell you, I'd be able to really sell your property a little differently if you had more of this or more of that. And, they're slow, but they come along, but that's the thing. I can't guarantee the tech all the time. So our platform has to come with enough of it where we can fill in the gaps as best we can. For sure.
Awesome. Well, I think there's a lot to learn from what you walked through. Thinking about you coaching up that team is going to ring in my ears for the next week or so. I'll have to remember that, maybe apply some of that to the team here at Cubby. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. I mean, you turned a mobile storage flyer into an entire career, and now a fast-growing third-party management company. Pretty rare. I mean, there's a lot of people who do good stuff in this industry, but not a lot who have taken that ride. So congratulations, and thanks for jumping on.
It's been fun. I mean, I think, again, my focus on this and what my philosophy's been, I mean, the systems part of it and structure and stuff like that is kind of inherent in me, but I'm very passionate about working with people, developing people, and I think that's been a lot of fun. And because of that, look, there's a lot of supervisors in the world. There's a lot of quote unquote trainers in the world, and training, generally speaking, and recruiting is a tough thing. It's not necessarily gotten tons better everywhere. And part of it is because people don't want to take the time to develop others and care about them and work with others. And I think that's what we've done. And I think if you probably talk and interview a lot of the teams that we've had over the years, they'd tell you that, hey, I didn't agree with everything all the time, but we were a team and we were passionate about it. So,
I mean, we talk to owners who are unhappy or a little dissatisfied with their third-party managers regularly. I had a call like this yesterday, and a lot of the time it's just a matter of buy-in and the teams that are working on their properties, and just like the want to not being there.
Yeah.
And the result kind of creeps up in, the website or the call center or on site, there's trash. Something is breaking that consistency. And it sounds like you guys have built a team that by and large checks the box, meets the bill, and obviously your customers are happy. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us. I mean, there's a lot to be taken from this, and I really appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I appreciate the opportunity. We had a lot of fun telling our story, and we'll keep working on it.
Thank you for listening to Students of Storage. Links to any resources mentioned in the episode can be found in the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a 5-star review and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Thanks, and have a good one.